During intense exercise, our muscles can also do something called lactic acid fermentation. So when you're exercising, your cells need energy, so they will do aerobic respiration. And in aerobic respiration, sugar, glucose, is taken up by cells and it goes through glycolysis, Krebs cycle, electron transport chain, and then you end up with a lot of energy molecules, around 38 ATP. But this requires oxygen because oxygen is required as a final step in the electron transport chain. But when you're doing intense exercise, at some point you're not getting in enough oxygen. Like think when you're breathing really hard. So your cells still want to make energy. They need energy. So they will switch from aerobic respiration to lactic acid fermentation, which only generates 2 ATP, and it's done because there's no oxygen. It's anaerobic. And keep in mind, this is temporary until you get oxygen back in. So in lactic acid fermentation, what your cells will do is they will still take glucose up, they'll do glycolysis, and they'll break it into 2 molecules of pyruvate, 2 NADH and 2 pyruvate. But now those 2 pyruvate will get converted to lactic acid using the NADH, and you end up with this accumulation of lactic acid in your muscles. And there is a myth in science that we all teach students a lot, and it's in textbooks, and we say it's the lactic acid buildup in your muscles that causes soreness. But now we know that's not true, because usually when you exercise really hard, you feel the soreness like 2 days later. I'm trying to do this without losing my voice. So you feel the soreness about 2 days later. And now we know that actually that soreness is from these tiny tears in your muscles that cause inflammation. That's its own topic. So lactic acid fermentation is still happening, but it's not necessarily causing muscle soreness. What it's doing is it's building up and it's lowering the pH. It's an acid in your muscles, and this causes that burning sensation. So that's lactic acid fermentation in human cells and eukaryotic cells. It's anaerobic. It doesn't require oxygen. It produces 2 ATP. And just one last detail, one difference between lactic acid fermentation in bacteria like that in yogurt versus in human muscle cells is in human muscle cells, lactic acid is in a different form. It can be found in a different form called lactate, just so you're aware. In both of them, lactic acid fermentation is just glycolysis to lysis to break. You're breaking sugar into 2 molecules of pyruvate, 2 ATP. Those 2 pyruvates get converted to lactic acid with the help of NADH. And so hopefully this makes sense.